What happened to them last night?
That's all I can say is
I'm with
you. What happened was Luka. That's literally what happened. The game was over in the first quarter. I don't know how he got off to a start that they allowed him to get off to. Luka scored 20 points in the first quarter. The first quarter.
It felt like in the first couple of minutes.
The first couple of minutes, if that's what you want to look at it. And there's nothing you could do about it. He was feeling it. It was almost like he was at shoot-around. That's what it felt like looking.
It did.
And you could tell his energy level was up from the last game. Not only that, so we come out of the locker room and we're going to feature Luka. That's what we're going to do. We're going to give it to Luka. But when we come out of the locker room in Minnesota, we're going to give it to Rudy Gobert. Luka, Rudy. Like, what? That doesn't even make any sense. For him to even be able to touch the ball 7, 8 times in a damn game, let alone in a quarter. So you lose that matchup right there alone, so you so far behind.
To your point, Rudy shot 7 times in the first quarter. He did make 3 of them for what that's worth, but it's Rudy Gobert.
Touching the basketball unless it's a rebound. I'm not posting him up at the start of the game to get my team. My offense is not going through Rudy Gobert. I'm sorry. It's just not, and I don't know why the Minnesota Timberwolves even felt that way. But then yet and still, they switched their matchup from the last game defensively to this game. All of a sudden, they decided to take Ant-Man and put him on Kyrie again. It was weird.
But he was on Luka a good bit also.
Yeah. Yes, but at the start of the game, at the start of the game, it was almost like they said, okay, we're going to let Luka get hot and get going, opposed to rattling his cage and trying to rattle his cage, so to speak, because we know what he's been on. We know what he's been on the road, and he obviously displayed that again last night. But you asked the question, what happened to him? That's what happened. I mean, there's no other way about it. Okay? We could say all day long, Ant-Man should have done more, this, that, and the other. There's nothing he could do because that dude was on fire. If he would have played the entire stretch, the entire game, because what did he sit out the last quarter, basically? And what if he'd have played the whole game, might have had 60 points. So there's nothing you could do. You lose right there. That's just you just lose. Nothing else to be said. He wins, we lose.
So how disappointed were you in the Timberwolves' initial effort?
I didn't get disappointed in initial effort till I realized they were down by 36 at one point, I think it was. That's when I got...
That was like, early third,
I'm like, because in the beginning, okay, so you down by whatever it was, 13, 14, whatever the points was at that time. I was like, okay, they got 2.5 quarters left. They'll be fine. But when you get to that 30-something mark, and they couldn't miss, you're like, oh, man. And you could tell that Ant-Man's frustration with his teammates, he's pointing at them, he's side-eyeing them. You could just tell. And then I'm disappointed in Cat. Like, the entire... if that's supposed to be championship caliber basketball, it wasn't displayed, Rachel. It just wasn't.
I mean,
nothing else to say.
Luka is the answer to every question.
It was the answer.
And he scored 12 points in the first 3.5 minutes to get to your beginning of the game.
Ridiculous.
Thing. And to me, it wasn't just that he was scoring. It was the way he was scoring, everything in his bag, as we say. And he had a Reggie Miller-like attention to the Wolves themselves and to the crowd. We just saw it from him, that I want to strangle you, I'm going to talk back to you. He was talking back to Snoop Dogg and Jimmy Jam after, what, a third of the baskets that he made there? I mean, he was incredible. And that confidence, we've seen it before, where he literally is just sort of a ball of fire around the court. 2022 against the Phoenix Suns, he had one of these games. He's capable of this. This is who he is, who he was when he came into the league. And the whole team played great, right? The Mavericks played great team defense. We talked about the importance of Derek Lively yesterday on the show, and obviously him being back was huge for them. You know, he's 100% from the floor, which, of course, you know, he's making baskets from 2 feet away, but it's important for them to get those points. He finishes Luka's lobs, and then defensively just really changes the elasticity of what they can do on that team. On the other side, and maybe this is partly because the Mavs did play great defense, the Wolves were just abandoned by their offense. Rudy Gobert taking 7 shots in the first quarter. You don't want to lead with him. That's not what you want, right? And if you look at their overall shooting numbers in the first half, 34% from the field, 16.7% from 3. You can't have that in a game where you are fighting for your lives. Cat missed his first 4 3-pointers. It's just, that is not how you play if you want to be in it. And they just weren't ever in it.
Yeah, it's crazy. If there was such a thing as a 6-point shot, Luka made one. He crossed half court and shot the ball. It went in. I was like, it's over. It just, you know how they talked about, obviously got the 3, then they talked about the 4-point potentially at once upon a time, and then you move it back even further. That's like a 6-point shot.
By the way, Kyrie matched him in points. I mean, that's what, kind of got lost in Luka's transcendent performance.
Yeah.
Is that Kyrie was right along with him with 30-plus points.
Kyrie gave you 15 in the second quarter, and the game was way over by halftime because it's 69-40 because Luka had 25 at halftime and Kyrie had 19 at halftime, and both Anthony and Cat had 12 and 12. Well, that's it. It's just game over. You got wiped off your own home court.
And you would normally take them 24 points by two guys at halftime.
But
you would normally take that.
44 by the 2 other guys.
No.
Okay, so at the end of the first quarter, I tweeted exactly this. Luka just said, "This game is mine," all caps. Anthony Edwards just said, "Okay," because that's what he did. He just said, "Okay." Again, he is it for them. And this is all in complimentary perspective here because he's a very special kid. Yep. He has played 4 years of professional basketball in the NBA. He's now played 26 playoff games, but they go as he goes. It's as simple as that. And maybe I'm heaping too much on him, but he's the next face of the league. And we've had many Jordan comparisons just in athletic ability. We see flashes, glimpses of, look at that dunk, look at that move. But he is that team. He made that team what it was because that team wasn't much without him because nobody else on that team really believed in that team. I don't trust Karl Anthony Towns in the biggest moments because I'm just not sure about him. I'm definitely never sure about Rudy Gobert in the biggest moments. The rest of them are all okay. They're all pretty good. I love Mike Conley, but he's like 5'10", and it's just hard for him to take a game over. He played about as well as you could expect him to play. But in the end, they have one nuclear potential weapon. They have one key difference maker. They have one kid who has had the Keyshawn-like guts to step up and say, no, we got this. We got this. We got this. We're going back, and I'm going to take Micah Parsons back. A new pair of AE1s.
You can FedEx
right?
I was going to say.
Well, now you're going to have to FedEx them. Okay. All right. He's going to have to just make do with his original pair, right? Okay. But the point is, he talked a lot, but I think deep down he knew he had to talk a lot because he had to send messages not to the other team, but to his team. He had to write checks that his team had to try to cash with him. And yet, and still, given all that, I was shocked that he came out lower energy last night. That's all I know. He was lower energy and lower urgency than I expected.
He picked it up a little bit in the second half, though.
He actually, if you look at his across-the-board numbers, they're pretty good. He played pretty well. I'm just talking about the tone-setting first 5 minutes of that game.
Yeah, but they gave the ball to Rudy Gobert for whatever reason.
Okay, well, that's on him, too.
But they was also, you got to give credit to Jason Kidd and his staff. They wouldn't allow him to get downhill. Soon as he touched the ball, they doubled him. They trapped him every single time to get the ball out of his hands.
Every once in a while, you just got to go. But you just got to go.
When you trap, Skip, he tried it multiple times, and it almost was catastrophic to a turnover. So at the end, he's getting the ball. He's doing what he's supposed to do as a basketball player. Get the ball out your hands. Mm-hmm. The same thing they tried to do to Luka in the game. Luka's bigger, taller than him, so Luka's able to make that pass, but they were trying to trap Luka after he went off on them.
Luka hunts his spots. That's one of the elite things about him. No matter what defense is being played, he knows how to get to where he can get. He knows where to get, where he can get to hit his shots. Anthony Edwards is still working on that. he is taking what the defense gives him. That is a good overall strategy, but when you are as elite as he is going to be, when you are the center of your team's offense, you have to be more aggressive, and he will learn that.
Yeah, I would have liked to see him shoot. I would have liked to have seen him shoot the Timberwolves out the game. 18 shots is not enough for me. I would have liked to have seen him just, like I said the other day, just shoot the basketball, man.
Okay.
What they gonna say to you?
When you see Luka doing what he's doing early, you just have to say, I have to match this. I got to go. I just got to go. Maybe if I miss, I miss, but I got to start to shoot more than I feel like it.
Maybe that is something to do with the experience and the youth that he has to understand at that moment in time, I just got to take over and I got to just be a hot dog and shoot the basketball regardless.
There's a real question, though, of how to build around him in the future. He's going to get better. He is on a huge trajectory. He's going to get better. He's going to get stronger. All of those things are going to happen for him. But how do you build this team around him? So to your point, Skip, he's the only engine right now offensively.
Really?
They have decent. They have decent offensive numbers throughout the season.
I mean, Naz Reid was the sixth man of the year.
He was,
okay?
but again, you're not counting on your
nothing.
No, you're not counting on your sixth man of the year to be the engine of your offense.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they can keep Naz Reid. So here's where the Wolves are in terms of what the future is for Anthony Edwards and how they can build around him and make him a contender. They are already committed to $20 million over the salary cap. Even if they fill out the rest of the roster with minimum players, they're getting to about 200. Right? So $200 million payroll. That's $70 million in luxury tax. Glenn Taylor, who has owned the Wolves for 30 years, in that entire time has played $25 million in luxury tax total over 30 years. So he's not looking to spend $70 million this year. We don't know if he's going to retain ownership of the team, but
in other words, he's cheap.
There's a lot of factors coming in here. They've got Ant and Jaden McDaniels extensions kicking in this summer. Gobert is about to be extension eligible. Mike Conley, as you pointed out, is a smaller guard, 36 years old. Naz Reid is set to become a free agent in 2025. And even if they kept this team together somehow and were willing to pay the luxury tax bill, they don't quite seem to have enough, right, to be a title contender. Denver is going to get back to being better next year. They're going to fill out that bench. Dallas is obviously a force. Oklahoma City is going to be better next year. So there is a real question when you have what became evident in these playoffs, a transcendent talent in Anthony Edwards. How are you going to help him flourish so this doesn't happen to him again?
You go get another guy.
Who are you getting rid of, and who are you getting? Everybody wants to go get another guy.
You go get another guy.
How many teams we talk about on this show?
You go get another guy. There's another guy that's floating around out there somewhere that fits what they are doing. We're just not thinking about it yet because all we think about is the star names. But there's a guy, right? Like, I don't know, even though he just moved on to Memphis, but I'll just use the name, like a Marcus Smart, just a guy that's really good, that can contribute and do some stuff. There's somebody out there. There's somebody. You can't possibly tell me, like, for instance, like the Lakers went and got a three-point shooter like a Gabe Vincent. There's somebody out there that can help this young man because he is the only engine. And when you look at situations like this, you feel sorry for players that they got a lot of potential, but the other guys are kind of holding them back to a degree because they're not following or living up to the same values that this individual is living up to.
But what they need is a scoring point guard.
They got to find somebody.
If you go get another guy, you've got to trade someone off the team. Karl Anthony Towns is the most likely suspect for that with just the way the contracts work out. And to your point, his inconsistency.
Yeah.
But he's being paid max money for the next 4 years. So you have to find someone willing to take that on.
But he can fit. He also could fit with somebody else that already has some pieces in play that may work for Karl Anthony Towns.
Look, that could all come together, but it will be very hard. So as we talk about Anthony Edwards and we look at his future, I have zero doubt that he's going to become an even better, much better player than he is at 22 years old. The experience, the physical development, the stamina, I think that he's going to learn to incorporate into his training. So many other things, being more aggressive, getting to his spots, all of that, I have full confidence he is going to flourish and be able to pull off. He is a hard worker. He's a great defender. But you have to have a team around you. We've seen guys in the NBA sort of, flounder because they couldn't quite get there with their team. We saw that happen to Luka for years in Dallas. They didn't quite have the team around him that he needed. And so Ant can carry them very far. This is obviously an elite defensive team as it's built now, but it doesn't seem like when we've watched them go through the West, despite that one game, Game 7 in Denver, that they have what it takes to get out of the West, given who else is in the conference right now.
Although
and I'd like to see Anthony
maybe they're
Edwards in the
closer than you
finals.
think. They just ran into the wrong guy or guys at the wrong time.
But you're going to run into that a lot.
Okay, but these two guys are very special. I know Stan Van Gundy went all the way to the most talented backcourt duo ever, best scoring duo ever. They said at a couple of points. But just for the record, when Anthony did guard Luka last night in the first half, Luka went 4 out of 5 and made 3 threes on him. Just for the record, because he was on one, because he had decided this night is going to belong to me. So very quietly, these Dallas Mavericks, with no home court advantage in any series that they've played so far, actually have had road court advantage because of Luka and to a certain extent Kyrie, because they both play much better on the road than they play at home. Luka has turned into, and I've been beating this over the head day after day, he has become the ultimate road warrior. And it's almost Jordan-esque the way he's picking somebody out in the crowd. There was somebody sitting down in the end zone seats behind Snoop. Some fan was waving a hanky like saying, cry baby, cry baby. And there was a point, I think we got he's yelling at him, cry baby. And at one point, Luka went and one. It was when they were about to go. I think they went up 36 at this point in the third quarter. Okay?
They got a little, I mean, they're good. There's no question about it, but they did get a break too, though.
The Mavericks.
Yes, absolutely. Think about their road to the final. They played the Clippers minus Kawhi.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
I'll give you that.
They played OKC with one guy.
No.
One guy.
But Oklahoma City did win the West.
That's
Over
fine.
82 games, they won the West.
But OKC is facing the same sort of issues, although they're younger than Minnesota.
Yeah.
It's Ant-Man. That's it. Chat. I mean, come on.
I mean, but Oklahoma City goes down to one bad idea, one bad foul by Shai Gilgeous, or we're going to Game 7 in Oklahoma City.
But we also can look at Minnesota's situation and say every single game was close except last night.
Okay.
But all I'm saying is these teams really didn't. OKC didn't have a two-headed monster. Yeah. And neither did.
Although I'm going to say this again, Kyrie stood up right after they closed him out in Game 6 and said that was the toughest series I've ever played in.
That may be true, but OKC couldn't score even match with Luka in Kyrie. They just couldn't, just like Minnesota.
Well,
they couldn't.
They didn't have to face Denver, which I do think matters, right? And they didn't face a team as deep as the Celtics, which we'll talk about.
And that's not their fault. I'm just pointing out that, you know, it's very hard when you got two dudes scoring whatever they scored, 70-something points, to a guy that's all by himself.
Right, but Key, that's the point. That's the point. You want to be the elite team that's better than everyone else. That doesn't mean that your road was easy. They got rid of 3 of the top 4 seeds. The point is that when you are an impressive team, gone your way to the finals with at least a chance to win it, you are supposed to be better with a better roster, with more talented players, with the best player in the series. That is how you win and get to the finals. I do think that they have not faced anyone as tough as the Celtics team that they're about to face. But I would not say that they had a cakewalk.
It's not a cakewalk. It's easier. It's an easy. When I looked at it, I'm looking at it and I'm saying you face a OKC young team with Shai. You're not really. We manufactured a whole bunch of the other players that was hitting shots. We wanted them to be.
Okay, but they led the NBA in three-point shooting. No, you don't get it. They led it, and then they get to that level, and all of a sudden Isaiah Joe can't find the basket.
Yeah, because they're in the playoffs now, and they're young, and it's a different situation. You didn't run in, to her point, to Rachel's point, not her, but to Rachel's point, you didn't run into Denver. You ran into a young team took you all the way down to Game 6, maybe could have forced a Game 7, to the point where they didn't know what was going on.
Okay, but that same team we just watched last night lose at home without huge effort and energy.
I think they were satisfied with not getting swept based on the way they were acting.
I watched that team beat Denver by 45 points on that floor. By 45?
Different matchup, man. It's a different matchup. It wasn't easy. They got bigs that came to play. They didn't come to play against Dallas the way they did against Denver.
You want to know the truth? Denver. There's no matchup for Luka right now. There's no matchup.
Correct.
But we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. Because they getting ready to see
you're
something
not
different.
Sold yet. You got to see more, right?
No, I'm sold on his ability.
Okay.
I'm sold on his ability.
You know what got me about Luka? He sat on the Inside the NBA set last night after the game, and he doesn't have much to say. He's, oh, shucks, gee whiz for the most part. But what got me was the visual of him sitting next to Shaquille O'Neal. And as Rachel knows, you both know, he is a huge human being.
Big guy.
So is Luka. I was sitting there looking how they compared in size.
Yeah.
Well, Shaq's lost a little bit here recently.
But he looks great. He looks great. But he's still a huge human being.
Yeah.
And Luka is in stature, in girth, in width.
He's really wide.
Yeah.
It's what lets him bully his way to where he wants to go.
He bullies, but he has first step quickness where nobody can keep him out of the lane. And I'm like dumbfounded by it because I think, let's see, you can't really jump. I'm not even sure you can dunk.
He knows,
right?
He knows he can't dunk on people like that, but he knows how to get to his spots. Everything ain't full speed. He gauges how he should get there, right? He dribbles, he lets somebody get on his back, he accelerates, he slows down, he moves to the left, moves to the right. That's just how he is. So he knows where to get to, how to get there, and that's all experience. That's playing overseas for a long period of time, as a kid, all of those sort of things. You don't necessarily see that with guys coming from college straight to the pros.
He was up against, remember, Minnesota did lead the league in defense. For what it's worth, they did. And Jaden McDaniels made second team all defense, and he's 6'9" and long,
right? Trouble. He had 3 early fouls.
But every time I'm looking at either Ant-Man or Jaden McDaniels on Luka toys with him. He's dribble, and all of a sudden there's one quick step, and I think he got a step on him, and he's in the lane, and he gets him on their butt, on his butt, you know. And then
he's been playing professional basketball since he was 13 years old. He has been in a professional basketball training, like physical strength and training program, since he was 13 years old. And you see
I couldn't tell, but whatever. You know, like I can't. I don't see any physique to him.
He'll never have a muscle show up in his. That's just not his body type.
Well, and he's
got grown man strength, man.
Yeah, he's strong. He just not. You're not gonna see any definition in his arms, his legs. It's just that's not who he is.
Hey, he's got cold-blooded basketball killer in him, especially.
I like him. He could come and play for us.
Oh, boy.
Oh, so that's where you're angling.
No, he's not coming to L.A., but you know what I'm saying.
By the way, when you said you need to go find a guy, well, they just went out and found this guy, Kyrie. They went and did that,
but
right?
See, that's it. But that's kind of what I'm talking about,
That was a huge risk, and Kyrie, to his credit, paid it off. But everyone's looking. Your team is looking for a guy.
Risk for who, though, Rachel?
Key, your team is looking for a guy.
I understand, but when you say risk for who?
The Spurs are looking for a guy. And a bunch of those teams have more assets than the Timberwolves.
But explain to me, before he pays these bills, risk for who?
They gave up a lot for Kyrie, and by the way,
but I'm Nico.
If I'm Nico, he could have walked last summer.
Yeah, but there's you have conversations and you have relationships.
Yes, he did. They did, but he did test the free agent market last summer.
But you tested to what? The Lakers? You're gonna go sit courtside with us, and hopefully you can come with LeBron?
I'm just saying,
that ain't really testing it.
It was a risk. It was a gutsy move by Nico, and Kyrie gets a lot of credit for paying it off.
Thanks for watching, Undisputed fans. Do you want more highlights from the show? Make sure to click that subscribe button for all the exclusive content from Undisputed.